Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to look at coastal management, which is part of your coast and rivers topic. Now this subject is always going to come up in your coasts exam or your coast part of the paper. They're always going to ask you some kind of question about coastal management strategies, i.e. the things that are being done to stop erosion in order to protect human areas or places where people are living in coastal places. Now we can split this up into hard and soft engineering, and actually it might be worth pausing the video and just getting what I've got copied down here. All I've got is half a sheet of A4. I'm going to keep it nice and brief. So I'll give you a quick second, I'll let you pause the video. Alright, hopefully you've got that all sorted. But I've laid out here, alright, on one side I've got hard engineering strategies, i.e. these are things built by people, alright, man-made structures used to stop things like erosion. Whereas on this side I've got soft engineering. These still involve human involvement, however, they're normally going to be adding to natural environments. Okay, so let's start off here with the sea wall, right, which is a large concrete wall, normally built with a bit of a curve that helps reduce some of those waves coming in towards the coast. Now the positive here, okay, is that these are very effective against erosion. Okay, so they are very, very effective against erosion. This is basically the best thing you can do. Alright, they also, okay, last a long time. Once you build one, they'll last a long time. You're not going to have to replace it. The negative here, though, is that despite being the best, it's also very expensive. Okay, so the UK government spends millions and millions of pounds on different hard engineering strategies. One of which, the most expensive being sea walls. A good example of this is down on the south coast of England. They spent around £10 million on a seawall. Okay, excellent. Right then, so our next one then, okay, we've got our seawall, our positive and a negative for it, is our rock armour, which is where essentially you pile up a bunch of rocks or large boulders at the base of a cliff or the base of a coastline. Okay. Now what's with the positive here? Well, this is cheaper than a seawall. Okay, much cheaper. Alright, in order to just put a few rocks up, it's pretty easy to do. However, with a seawall, you could add some, say, stairs or something that allows people to get from up here on the coast down to the beach. With rock armour, it's a little bit more difficult. So access to the beach is reduced. You might be thinking, okay, well, why is that so much of a problem? Well, you think about some of the coastal places you've been to. These are tourist locations. So this is going to maybe lead to a decrease in tourism. Okay? So seawall and rock armour both do a very similar job. Essentially, they are in front of the coast, alright, the bit of land, stopping the waves hitting the land, and instead they hit whatever has been built there. So it essentially takes the energy out of the wave. The next one's a little bit different, but does still work to stop erosion, and that's groins. Now these are wooden fences built along the beach, normally at right angles to the sea. Now what these do is they trap sediment behind them. Sediment being moved by longshore drift gets stuck on the groin and can't go any further. And that leads, okay, so trapped sediment increases the size of the beach. So it makes the beaches bigger because the sediment gets trapped there, so it just ends up piling up on that one beach instead of being taken elsewhere, and it makes the beach much bigger. Now this is going to reduce erosion, okay, right, because it will slow down. A large beach will slow down waves, right, leading to less erosion. It's a little bit more complicated, that one, but the end effect is still the same. There's less erosion because the waves travel further over a much larger beach. Negative though, I've already said they're made out of wood. Issue here is they need replacing often. The wood rots really easily, right, or it might break due to some of the rocks and pebbles and stuff breaking into it. So they need replacing. So these are our hard engineering strategies. Now on the other side we have soft engineering strategies, and again we need to know what the positives and negatives are for each. So Beach nourishment, this is where you essentially will take sand and you'll then just dump it using trucks and lorries, and you'll just pile it up on the beach. You're adding more sand there, and that's going to make the beach bigger. Now, this works in the same way as groins, I suppose. It makes a larger beach, which reduces erosion. You could also make the argument, though, as well, this looks natural. Alright, which would be good for tourism. If it looks natural, it's not going to put people off. Okay, it's a nice sandy beach, and once it's all done, once all the trucks are gone, you wouldn't even notice if they were even there in the first place. The negative, though, is if you're only using beach nourishment, you've added nothing to stop that sand just being washed away. So, sand is easily washed away. And if you can remember what that sort of process is, that there is longshore drift. Dune regeneration works a bit similar, in my opinion, to something like rock armour. This is where we plant marram grass on very, very small sand dunes to encourage them to develop and grow in size. Now the positive here is once this is done, okay, again they act like a buffer to the waves hit into them rather than hitting into the land. Now once this is done, it creates natural habitats. Okay, things like seabirds and wildlife will live in these areas. Negative though is that whilst the marram grass is growing, so whilst marram grass is growing, the area cannot be used. Tourists are not allowed in the area whilst the grass is growing, which potentially means that you might end up with less tourism for a shorter period of time. Finally, our last one with coastal management is something called managed retreat. Now this is still a soft engineering strategy, but it's a little bit different. This is where, and I've drawn a little very crudely sort of, kind of no ban symbol. This is where we allow the coast to erode away in certain areas. All right, we're not just allowing it all to erode away. It will normally be a place that's been decided on or agreed upon beforehand, normally somewhere without much value. Now the positive here, okay, is that this does, okay, it saves money because you've not had to build anything. Okay, you don't really have to build anything here. It saves money. You don't have to build a massive seawall or rock armour. It allows the erosion to take place, and it might also mean that erosions are going to happen elsewhere. Negative here, though, is that the land that's often allowed to retreat is normally either natural spaces or they are farmland spaces or rural areas. So often farmland is lost during managed retreat. Now there's one last little thing I wanted to talk about, because this here, okay, will serve you perfectly fine. 3 different strategies for each type. I want to very, very quickly just talk about groins and their effect on potentially other beaches nearby. Because whilst groins are very good, they increase the size of the beach, which slows down erosion. That trapped sediment is no longer going to beaches further along the coast. That then means that the reverse happens. For beaches further up the coast, there is now going to be a smaller beach, which then actually leads to the waves not slowing down, and therefore we're going to have increased erosion. Now it's just something to be aware of, because if you can throw that into your exam on the relevant question, that's a really, really strong point, really, really valid point to include there. So thank you very much for watching. That's been coastal management. Remember, this will come up in every single coastal exam that you do. Okay, so thank you very much.